There was something wrong with the town of Death Point Ridge, but no one ever said it out loud. It lived in the silence between porch light flickers, in the spaces where your reflection didn't quite move the way you did, and in the way the trees leaned toward the houses, like they were listening. It was a place where fog didn't roll in. It crept, crawling along the streets like something hungry, the kind of town where people left their porch lights on, not out of habit, but hope. Hope that maybe light could still protect them from whatever might press its face to their window in the dead of night. Nobody walked after midnight, and nobody looked out the window, because that's when he came. The legends called him the Smiling Man. No one knew where the stories started, but everyone knew how they ended, with someone missing, or dead, or found wandering the woods barefoot, lips split from grinning too hard, eyes wide and glazed like mirrors turned inward. Some claimed he only came if you looked for him. Others said he came for those who didn't believe. Either way, after midnight, you didn't look out the window. It was a Friday when the fog rolled in thicker than usual, swallowing up the edges of the town by dusk. The sky hung low, pressed down with that kind of heavy gray that made everything feel slower, duller, too still. Inside a narrow, creaking house near the edge of the woods, Noah sat hunched over a battered journal, the corners curled with age and damp. He was 24, and the dark rings under his eyes said he hadn't slept in a long time. Across the room, a flickering television buzzed static. No signal, just white snow and a low hum that seemed to rattle through the bones of the floorboards. The others were late. They always gathered here. Noah, Elijah, Ren, and Sadie, best friends since childhood. The kind of bond that grew from shared trauma, whispered secrets in the woods, and the unspoken knowledge that their town was not right. But lately, even they didn't talk about him, not anymore. Noah glanced at the window. The curtains were drawn tight, but a sliver of fog light bled through the edges. The wind hadn't moved in hours. Still, something scratched at the back of his brain, a pressure like someone standing behind him just outside his peripheral vision. He turned the volume up on the TV, trying to drown it out. Don't look out the window after midnight. He didn't remember who told him that first, probably his older brother, before he disappeared when Noah was 11. They said he ran away. Noah never believed that. The house creaked, a slow groaning sound from the hallway. Noah stood, every hair on his arms prickling to attention. He stepped toward the window, not to look, but to check the lock, just to make sure. His fingers brushed the cold metal latch. Outside, something moved, just a shadow, but too tall, too still, too thin. Noah's breath caught. He didn't look. He backed away, sat down, waited, and then 3 knocks at the front door. Tap, tap, tap. Slow, deliberate, like a game, like it knew. The sound echoed down the hall and into the pit of Noah's stomach. He stared at the door, didn't move, didn't breathe. The knocks didn't come again, just the hum of the TV, and a sound from the window. The soft, wet sound of smiling. The next morning was too quiet, not peaceful quiet, the kind that comes after something terrible has happened, the kind that makes your teeth ache and your stomach knot. Even the birds didn't sing. The fog hadn't lifted. It clung to the windows like sweat, like breath. Noah hadn't slept. He didn't even try. He just sat in the corner of his bedroom with the TV still buzzing static, every light in the house turned on. He hadn't checked the door, he hadn't checked the window, but he hadn't turned his back on either one. Not once. He was waiting for the others. He needed to know they were okay, that they hadn't seen him too, that they hadn't looked. At 10:12 a.m., Sadie was the first to arrive. She let herself in with the spare key under the broken flower pot. She didn't knock. She didn't say anything. She just stepped inside, closed the door behind her, and leaned against it like she'd just outrun something from a nightmare she wasn't ready to talk about. Her face was pale, dark under the eyes, her lips pressed in a line too thin to hold any truth. "Did you hear it?" she asked finally. Noah didn't answer right away. She crossed the room slowly and sat beside him on the couch. "3 knocks," she whispered, just like before. Noah's throat was dry. He nodded. By noon, Elijah and Wren had arrived. Elijah looked worse than the rest. His hands shook. He kept rubbing the back of his neck like something had touched him. Wren kept looking over her shoulder like she expected to see something still following her through the door. None of them said it out loud, but they all knew. The smiling man had come back. And this time, he wasn't just watching. They sat together in silence for a long time. The TV hummed on, a single chair creaked. The fog outside pressed tighter, thicker, like it wanted in. Finally, Wren broke the silence. "I think it's starting again." Sadie didn't ask what, she already knew. 10 years, Elijah muttered. 10 years since the last one, since the last disappearance. "Your brother," Wren said to Noah. Quiet, not cruel, just true. Noah nodded. And the other kids, all in the same week, no signs, no blood, no bodies. Sadie swallowed hard. Just windows left open. No one looked at the windows now. They all sat with their backs to the walls, like animals in a trap. "We need to find out why it's back," Wren whispered, "before one of us." She didn't finish. She didn't have to. The fog outside pulsed, soft and wrong, like a heartbeat, and then, from deep within it, a figure, just a silhouette, tall, still, waiting. None of them moved. They didn't need to look out the window to feel it. It was already looking in. The fog didn't lift by afternoon. If anything, it grew heavier, more solid somehow. It pressed against the windows like a living thing, damp, white, and full of suggestion. It didn't swirl or drift. It hovered, thick and deliberate, like it had settled in. The 4 of them, Noah, Sadie, Wren, and Elijah, sat scattered around the living room, surrounded by the hum of cheap electronics and the occasional creak of old wood shifting beneath its own weight. No one had said a word in almost an hour. There was nothing left to say that didn't feel dangerous. Wren finally stood and pulled her sleeves down over her hands. Her voice was dry, distant. "I don't think it's just the windows anymore." They all turned. "I mean," she added, "we used to believe that, right? Don't look out the window after midnight. But what if that's not the whole rule? What if it was just the start?" Sadie stared at the window, not through it, just at the curtain. The fabric trembled slightly, but the air was still. "I heard someone laugh last night," she said. "Not outside, inside, like behind the walls, like it knew I was awake." Noah's chest tightened. He didn't want to say it, but his throat burned with the truth. "I saw a face." Elijah slowly looked up from the floor. "When?" "Just before dawn," Noah whispered. "In the hallway mirror, it looked like me, but it was smiling." That's how it starts, Elijah muttered, his voice suddenly rough. That's how it started last time, too. The room fell silent again. The temperature dropped. Somewhere beneath the floorboards, something creaked twice. Software, purposeful, like footsteps. Wren opened the journal. They'd found it in Noah's attic 2 years ago. It belonged to his brother, Micah, the first to disappear in the 2013 incident. Pages filled with scribbles and fragmented warnings. She turned to a marked page near the center. 3 rules written in ink so dark it had bled through. Don't look out the window. Don't talk about the smile. Don't answer the knock. Wren circled the second rule with her finger. We've already broken this one. Noah ran a hand down his face. His skin felt like it didn't belong to him anymore. What happens when you talk about it? He asked quietly. Sadie didn't respond. She just reached into her bag and held up something wrapped in a dish towel. She unwrapped it. It was a shard of broken mirror, the edges jagged, the surface warped. I broke my bathroom mirror last night, she said, because it smiled at me before I did. Elijah stood suddenly, breathing fast. I think we're being targeted. Everyone froze. That's what the smile is. It's not just creepy. It's a sign, a tag. It's how it chooses you. Outside, the fog turned a deeper shade of gray, like dusk was already falling. The sky hadn't shifted, but the light was draining. And then, a creak from the hallway, followed by a sound no one wanted to hear. Tap, tap, tap. 3 knocks, not at the door. At the window, they all froze. No one turned to look, not even Sadie. Noah's voice dropped to a whisper. It's not midnight yet. Wren clutched the journal to her chest. Then he's early. The air in the room changed. Pressure built behind their eyes like a low-frequency hum they couldn't hear but could feel, deep in their teeth, their bones, their blood. The knock came again. Tap, tap, tap. But this time, it wasn't just a sound, it was a smile, visible through the curtain, just the lower half of a face, mouth too wide, teeth too many, pressed softly against the glass. Smiling. By nightfall, the fog had turned the world outside into a pale, glowing void. Not darkness, something worse. The kind of light that made things visible only when they moved. No one dared go home. The 4 of them huddled in Noah's house, shades drawn tight, mirrors covered with bed sheets, all the lights still on. Even breathing felt loud. Every second that passed without a knock felt stolen. Elijah sat with his back to the hallway, his knees pulled to his chest, staring at the blank static screen of the TV. Wren hadn't said a word in an hour, just kept her eyes fixed on the crack beneath the front door, like she was waiting for fingers to slip through. Noah sat by the window, head bowed, trying not to see the shape that still stood out there. It hadn't moved. It didn't need to. It knew they saw it. Sadie broke the silence. I think he's already in here. Her voice was too steady, too soft. Wren turned toward her. Don't say that. No, listen. Sadie sat forward, her fingers trembled. I heard someone whisper my name in the bathroom. No one moved. I thought it was one of you, she continued, but when I turned on the light, I was alone. The mirror was uncovered. I swear I covered it. Did you look into it? Noah asked, his voice nearly gone. Sadie nodded slowly. I saw myself. Okay, Elijah said. That's good. Sadie shook her head. No, I was already smiling before I even moved. Wren stood up too fast. The chair groaned under her. We have to get out, leave town, do something. And go where? Elijah snapped. You think he won't follow us? Then we fight back, she said. He's not a ghost. He's a thing. He's got rules. Noah's voice cut through like a blade. And we just broke one. Everyone turned toward him. He was staring at Sadie. You answered him, he whispered. When you looked in the mirror, that was him. You answered. Sadie backed away slowly. No, it was just me. It wasn't, Wren said quietly. You said you were already smiling. A sound came from down the hall, not footsteps this time, breathing. Ragged, wet, close. Elijah turned toward the hallway. Noah. No response. You're still over there, right? Noah nodded slowly from the couch, Elijah's face drained. Then who just walked into your bedroom? The hallway was empty, but the door at the end slowly creaked open. Sadie was crying now, her hands over her mouth. I think I'm not me. Wren turned. What? Sadie backed into the corner. Her shadow stretched the wrong direction. I looked again. I couldn't help it. It kept calling. It sounded like my mom. A tear slipped down her cheek. But my mom's been dead for 6 years. The hallway light flickered, and in the mirror beneath the bedsheet, something laughed. The front door rattled once, twice, then tap, tap, tap. 3 knocks. The curtain shifted, and just barely visible was Sadie. Outside, standing at the window, smiling. The house was wrong now. Noah felt it deep in his chest, like a skipped heartbeat that never reset. The air inside had grown thicker, like every breath passed through water. The walls no longer sat straight, corners bent in ways that didn't align with memory. And the mirrors were still smiling beneath the bed sheets. He was sure of it. After the knock, they stayed frozen in place, not speaking, not blinking. The world had narrowed to the sound of the soft, shivering wind and the image of Sadie standing outside the window, her grin too wide, her eyes 2 bottomless pits of familiarity. She's in here, Wren whispered, voice trembling. And also out there, Elijah finished. No one moved. Sadie, the one inside, stood with her head bowed, her shadow now stretching across the ceiling, bending with the light instead of against it. I told you, she said quietly, I'm not me. Then, just as calmly, she turned and walked down the hallway. Her footsteps were soundless, not muffled, absent. Noah stood slowly. We need to get out. We're not safe anymore. We were never safe, Wren said, her voice hollow. We were just early. They crept down the hallway in single file, past warped wallpaper and doorknobs that looked slightly unfamiliar, like a child had redrawn them from memory. Sadie was gone. The bedroom door was open, but inside, only silence. The mirror on the far wall had been uncovered, not shattered, not veiled, just waiting. Wren stepped closer, drawn despite herself. The mirror was cold, too cold. The reflection didn't line up. That's not us, she whispered. 3 reflections, but not quite right. Their bodies were stiff, their expressions blank, their clothes slightly off. Elijah reached out and touched the glass. His reflection smiled. He didn't. Noah grabbed him, yanking him back just before the glass began to ripple. Something behind the mirror grinned wider. Teeth, too many, all flat. Then Elijah blinked and he was gone. Just disappeared. No scream, no flicker, no sound. 1 second there. Next second. Nothing. Only his reflection remained in the glass, still smiling. Wren screamed. She ran down the hallway, but every door she opened led back to the living room, or to a room that shouldn't exist. One was full of fog, floor to ceiling. Another had dozens of Sadies inside, each one slowly turning to look at her. All smiling. She slammed the door shut, breath ragged, heart crashing against her ribs like a trapped animal. "It's not just the mirrors," she gasped to Noah. "It's the whole house." Noah didn't respond. She turned to him, only to find him staring at her, eyes wide, terrified. "Wren," he said, "where's your shadow?" Wren looked down. Nothing, and from behind her the soft sound of laughing glass. In the mirror across the room, a hand pressed against the inside of the glass. Then, a face, not Wren's, but one that wore her features like a mask, still, smiling. It didn't make sense anymore. The house, the walls, the doors. Noah had walked down the hallway 3 times and returned to the same room, but the furniture was wrong. The rug was a faded green now instead of red. A family photo on the wall had been replaced by a mirror. A mirror that hadn't been there before. A mirror that was breathing. He stared at it. Each time he blinked, the reflection inched closer. Wren sat alone in the bathroom with the door locked, her back pressed against cold tile, her breath fogged in the air, though the room wasn't cold. In fact, it was too warm. She had no idea where Noah had gone, or Sadie, or the thing wearing Elijah's skin. "I'm still me," she whispered aloud. "I'm still Wren." The bathroom mirror pulsed. She didn't look at it, not directly. She stared at the floor, counting the tiles. 24. There had always been 24. She counted again. 25. Her reflection smiled. Noah stopped moving. Every room looped, every hallway curved. Time didn't pass like it used to. He no longer knew if it had been 5 minutes or 5 hours. His phone screen was black, unresponsive. Clocks blinked 3:33 on every appliance. "Where are you?" he whispered, not knowing if he meant Wren or Sadie or himself. Behind him, a floorboard moaned. He turned slowly. No one. But then, a whisper. "This is the room you die in." It wasn't said cruelly, it was said kindly, like a promise. Wren stood. She faced the mirror. Her reflection blinked. "Say my name," it whispered. Wren backed away. "Say it." A second voice joined it. Then a third. Now the mirror was full of faces. All of them Wren, all of them smiling, some crying. "You left us behind." Noah opened the front door. Only fog. No town, no trees, no sky, just a thick, soundless white. Then a figure, just barely visible through the haze. Tall. Thin. Wearing a black suit. And smiling. Noah stepped back. The door slammed shut on its own. Upstairs, Wren began screaming. It wasn't a scream of fear. It was a scream of recognition, because when she finally looked into the mirror, really looked, she didn't see herself. She saw Noah, but he was smiling. Somewhere deep within the house, the lights went out. The television, still playing static in the living room, flickered black. Then, a face filled the screen. Too close, too wide, too wrong. Teeth, eyes, no sound, only that grin. And 3 soft knocks. Tap, tap, tap. Sadie hadn't disappeared. She'd been forgotten. That's how the smiling man worked. He didn't always drag you away screaming. Sometimes he simply peeled your presence out of the world, quietly like a thread pulled from a sweater. And when the thread was gone, so was everything you touched. Photographs, phone contacts, the sound of your name in someone else's mouth. Sadie had woken up in the attic. She didn't remember climbing the stairs, didn't remember opening the door, but here she was, alone, surrounded by dust and forgotten furniture that didn't look like Noah's family's. There were mirrors on every wall, covered in white sheets, some pulsing softly beneath the fabric. The floor beneath her creaked, but she couldn't hear it anymore. Not properly. Everything sounded muffled, like the world was holding its breath. She called out, "Ren? Noah?" No answer. The mirrors stirred. "I'm still here," she whispered. One mirror whispered back, "Are you?" Downstairs, Ren stared at Noah, or at least, she thought it was Noah, but he hadn't spoken since she found him. He just sat, perfectly still on the edge of the bed, hands clasped together, eyes wide and unfocused. "Noah," she tried again. His mouth twitched. "Do you remember Sadie?" The air thickened. The fog outside pressed against the windows like it wanted in. Noah slowly turned his head. "Sadie who?" Ren's stomach dropped. "Noah. We came here with her." He blinked. A slow, mechanical motion. The light above flickered. "There's never been a Sadie." Up in the attic, Sadie screamed, but no one heard her. The house forgot her. Even the floorboards didn't echo anymore. She moved through the space, frantic, pulling the sheets from mirrors one by one, but each reflection showed her somewhere else. One showed her as a child walking into the woods. One showed her asleep in a classroom while something stood behind her, grinning, and one showed the attic, showed her, but smiling. The reflection lifted its hand and waved. Sadie dropped the sheet and backed into the corner. "No," she whispered. "I'm still me. I remember." The mirror didn't respond, but the attic door creaked open behind her. A figure stood on the stairs, face in shadow, red light glowing faintly from its grin. Downstairs, Ren began crying. "Noah, please. We had sleepovers. We used to walk home from school with her. Her mom made us cocoa." "You're not making sense," he said flatly. "We were 4, she choked. "We met because she tripped and bloodied her knee, and I gave her my scarf." Noah tilted his head, the way the smiling man did. "You're thinking of someone else." She turned and ran. She found Sadie's bag by the stairs, her journal inside, torn at the corners, pages marked with strange symbols and broken sketches. One page was still legible, a drawing of the 4 of them, labeled with their names, and Sadie's name was scratched out in red, but the figure labeled Sadie was the only one not smiling. Ren clutched the page to her chest and whispered, "I remember you." The fog pulsed, the lights above buzzed, and upstairs, the attic door slammed shut. The attic door wouldn't open. Ren's hands shook as she gripped the knob, turned it, pounded on it, but it wouldn't move. It was like the wood itself had sealed. like it no longer remembered being a door. From the other side, Sadie screamed, "Wren!" And behind that, laughter, soft, playful, terrifying. Wren pressed her ear to the wood. She could hear Sadie weeping, scratching at the walls. "Please, please, don't forget me." Then, silence. Not a pause, not a break. The kind of silence that felt final. Downstairs, Noah was gone. Or maybe he never existed at all. The living room was hollow now, like it had been emptied of sound. The television was off. The walls were bare. Even the furniture looked wrong, softer around the edges, like it was fading. Only one thing remained, the journal, open to the last page. A new entry had appeared. "I am the one who smiles when others are afraid. I am the one who walks behind your reflection. I am the last face you'll ever see. I am not alone anymore." And below it, a name, Wren, written over and over in her own handwriting, each one more crooked, more smiling. Wren ran back to the front door. The fog had peeled open slightly, just enough to reveal a path. Not a road, just a stretch of black soil and dead trees. But she saw the sign. Faint, carved into rotting wood. Death Point Ridge. Est 1891. Population infinite. She turned. Sadie stood in the doorway, smiling, but not all the way. It was off, like a mask stretched too tightly over her real face. "You remembered," Sadie said. "I came back for you," Wren whispered. "That's not how this works," Sadie replied, "but thank you." She stepped back into the fog and disappeared. The house behind her groaned, began to crack, then collapse. The windows shattered inward, the mirrors screamed, and the fog swallowed everything whole. 1 week later, Wren stood on the edge of town, a duffel bag on her shoulder. She hadn't spoken to anyone. Not really. No one remembered Sadie or Elijah or even Noah, but she did. She carried their names in her head like stones in her pockets. She carried the journal, too. And every night since she left the house, she had woken at 3:33 a.m. to 3 knocks, but never at the door. Always from the mirror. Later that night, Wren stared at her reflection in Motel 999's bathroom. Same face, same eyes, same scar on her lip from when Sadie saved her from falling off her bike in 7th grade. But her reflection was smiling. She wasn't. "I remember you," Wren whispered. The smile faded, just slightly, and from somewhere deep in the mirror, a whisper answered. "Then maybe you're not like the others." Wren turned out the light and left the bathroom. She didn't look back, but the reflection stayed, just a moment too long. Still watching. Still waiting. Still smiling.